Hey everybody, and welcome to C3 Films. Today we're doing another episode of It Wasn't That Good. I am Cheryl, and this is...
Chris.
And today we're going to be talking spoilers, and it's going to be about the new Ant-Man movie that just came out on Disney+, Plus, Quantumania. And, well, man, I don't know what to tell you, but I did not have a very good time. It was some good time. I mean, I like me some Ant Man, but
Hmm.
and I like Paul Rudd, and the Ant Man series is consistently comedic, and for that I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
But I had some problems. I'm sure you did too.
I did. So I actually enjoyed the movie more than I thought I was going to, only because of the fact that from the way everybody made it sound was like the movie. Because I heard some things people talking about. Oh, the CG is so bad that it looks like a Disney Plus, like straight to DVD type thing. And like, while I could see some spy CG in places, I didn't think it was that bad. But yes, I absolutely do have some problems, and and they're very large and round. But yes, your biggest endorsement is that it's not the worst Marvel film. Yeah, I know, right? But yes, like before I get into my gripes, I'm kind of curious, Cheryl, for you to start. Like, what was it that you kind of like were feeling about this going into it?
I mean, I like with many Marvel films have very low expectations. And so I either feel like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like I enjoyed it because it wasn't that bad, or
Mm-hmm.
man, how could they do any worse? But I think I just kind of like checked out as
Yep.
soon as they went to the quantum realm and like there were humanoids,
Mm-hmm.
like subatomic humanoids and aliens, and I was like, is this Star Wars? Because if it's Star Wars, this looks great. But it wasn't. It was Ant Man, and is it even really about Ant Man? I was kind of like, are we passing the torch here to like
Cassie.
Cassie? Because it felt a little bit like that. Which is not a big deal, but it just, it just there were so many characters that were more predominant. Mainly being Cassie and Hope's mom. So
Yep. Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I just don't know where this movie is going. So
Yeah, it's
that
funny. It's called Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I feel like Janet. I mean, excuse me. I feel like Hope doesn't actually do anything
I
in this
know.
movie.
I mean, she helps him a lot. Like she saves
Yeah.
him quite a few times, but I'm like that just kind of made me feel like, well, Aaron doesn't really do anything in
Hmm.
this movie. So
Yeah. So it's so weird because okay. So let me start with something that I liked because I had heard some things about Cassie going in. So I was thinking that I was gonna start this, and I was just gonna hate her, and I was just like, she was gonna be grating. Because also, it's very jarring that they replaced the actor, like, because that's not the same actress that played his daughter in Endgame. So they got a different actress who, is arguably more famous to play his daughter for this one. And I figured when I came in that I was just not gonna like her. And when she first started talking, and she was doing like the whole thing of just like, I'm a rebel, and I'm, trying to make political change and stuff like that. I was like, okay, you're gonna be one of those. But it caught me off guard because she makes this comment about how she's used to like raising herself, and her dad's like, ouch. And like in any other movie, like the daughter would just be like, yeah, that's right, blah blah. But she has this moment where she's like, oh shoot, I didn't mean it that way. And she immediately apologizes and says, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, no, it's all good. I like that as a moment. I was like, that's cool. Because it shows that even though she's kind of doing this rebellious thing, she doesn't blame her dad for something that wasn't his fault. Because he literally got trapped there because of a thing that literally affected the entire world.
mm-hmm.
So I like the fact that they didn't just pretend like she was just blaming him because of the fact that just to blame him. So seeing that, I was like, okay, that's a nice moment. I'm I'm on board. Let's see where else. Let's see where else where this movie has to go. Um, so yeah, and yes, like I think like with many of these movies, they start off fine enough, and then once you start getting into them, that's when things start falling apart. And it's really a lot of the quantum realm stuff, which is basically like the movie. Like the entire movie is like the CG film, which I don't think that it looks like, when you said at the start of the show, I don't think it looks as bad as everyone made it sound like it was going to look, except for one specific thing that looks absolutely awful, and I hate it. And every time I see it, I hate it, and I get angry. But I'm gonna get back to that in a second. Let me kick it back to you to hear more what you have to say, Cheryl.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have any issues really with the characters themselves because I feel like they're pretty consistent with how they've been in the other Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
It really is just like the plot and the setting and the CGI. It was like completely like it was all CGI. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they almost 100% filmed everything on a green screen against a green screen except for before they actually go to the quantum realm. And
Yeah.
so like I get why that would be and why they would need to do that, but because they made this decision to have the movie take place there, it really boxes them in terms of what they can do. You would think that it would give them like unlimited things to do because they have um, this whole world that they can like completely make up with
Mm-hmm.
all these different beings and stuff like that. But I think that as soon as you have it take place in that kind of world, it becomes completely unrelatable. And you
Mm-hmm.
can only have these five characters. Five? One, two, three, four, five. Yeah. So you can only really have these five characters be your main characters, and you don't really get a lot of subplots. So that's why they had to split the party so that we can have something to cut back and forth from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like I just felt very boxed in.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just felt like I felt claustrophobic. And I don't know if
Yeah.
like they meant for that to be because like technically we're very small.
We're very small, yeah.
But I just feel like we didn't. There would never be an opportunity for us to be surprised to see another character. They're like every single character other than these five people are going to be characters that we've never met before. Well, I guess
Yeah.
except for King, but still like.
Mm-hmm.
But we see them. We see King right away, anyway. So.
Right, right. No, so yeah, I think it's interesting that we get to the quantum realm, and just we said that was going to be spoilers, but we get to the quantum realm, the party gets separated, and we start like basically we start learning about what this world is. And one of the things that I think that the movie does very well is building up the antagonist of Kang. So this leads to me something else that I really do like about the movie. I like the idea of taking what could be considered your weakest hero and putting them against one of the arguably strongest villains that is going to be popping up, and then having them have to figure out how they're going to deal with that because they're literally the weakest hero, so they have to be smart and everything else like that to overcome that. That seems like a good premise to me. The buildup of Kang, I think, is very exciting because you just hear all these people just talking about him, and he'll be looking for you, and the conqueror and stuff like that. So I was just like, okay, well, they're building up this Kang guy to be like kind of kind of a big deal. So I like the build up of that villain. I think that that was very cool. Um, but there are some things that are just so silly. Um, so I'll take this opportunity to start talking about Modoc. Um, and obviously Modoc is from the comic books, and it's so funny because they do that thing where they're just like they're trying to build up the person that's the hunter that's after them, and they're talking about it's not a man, it's not a machine, it's a mental organism designed only for killing. And as soon as Bill Murray says that, which Also, Bill Murray's in this movie. Okay. Um, as soon as Bill Murray says that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. It's MODOK. And then we actually see MODOK. I wasn't upset seeing him with the mask on. I was just like, oh, okay, MODOK doesn't look that bad. And then the mask comes off. And oh my lord, that is the most atrocious CGI monstrosity I think I've ever seen in a high budget film. That looked so terrible and was so bad. And everything that I hate about this movie is actually has to deal with MODOK.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't really know much about MODOK. I've seen a little bit of the MODOK series with
Mm-hmm.
Patton Oswalt,
Mm-hmm.
and I I feel like that was a much better depiction. They just like with Darren, they made him seem very silly and like
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't take him seriously, but I don't know if that's how MODOK is supposed to be.
Right.
And I mean like I also didn't really like his arc because it was like a just complete 180 at one point just from Cassie saying like don't be a dick and
Even that dialogue was so bad.
yeah.
He's like, look at me, I'm a dick, and they're like, that's not how people talk. And she's like, it's never too late to stop being a dick. And he's
Yeah.
oh my god, I hate this movie right now. Yes, play that. I was like, this is so bad, and it wasn't even funny to me. But sorry, I cut you off. Please continue.
Yeah, no, but I thought the end was funny, like because he was like, you're always like a brother to me," and then he was like, "What? Yeah, sure, sure, sure," and he's like, "Got to die, an Avenger," and he's like, yeah, you're in, yeah," and I was like, I feel like this doesn't do MODOK justice. I don't know the character very well, but I was seeing it a little bit, so I just feel like this just overall didn't seem like very good character treatment. So
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think I agree too. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting how they made it so that they could include him in the first place, but I think his inclusion just did not add anything of value to the movie, like whatsoever. And I think that's another big problem with the movie is that a lot of it does feel very meandering. Um, but it does have cool moments. Like I do like the fact that Michael Douglas's Hank Pym like kind of saves the day at the end with his army of ants because he is supposed to be the original Ant Man, so they kind of like give him that other superhero moment, like that moment to shine. So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Um, but yeah, no, I agree, Playmat. They just seem to want a character reveal, a shock value character reveal, like absolutely, when it came to MODOK. But I want to talk about Kang briefly because like I think that for me is like the strongest part of the film. Um, I really enjoyed Jonathan Majors' portrayal of Kang because like I like that he felt threatening. I like the fact that he kind of was cool and composed, and that moment when he's talking with Scott Lang, and just his dismissiveness of which Avenger are you? Have I killed you before? And telling him, do I look like a liar? I will kill your daughter in front of you and make you rewatch it over and over again. Like when he's doing that, I'm like, yo, Kang, you you kind of scary though, bruh. Even with like how he treated MODOK, where he just like knocks him away outside of the room and says, "Do not speak when I am in the room." Like a lot of the characterization of Kang with Jonathan Majors like acting, I enjoyed that. That's like when I was like most dialed into the movie was when he was on screen because I like his portrayal of the character. Um and I remember while I was watching thinking to myself, how do they get out of this? Because they shouldn't beat him. If this guy is supposed to be the next big bad in Marvel, then Ant-Man can't beat him in this movie because then that just completely destroys that hierarchy. Because if Ant-Man can beat him or Ant-Man and his friends can beat Kang by themselves, then the Avengers would mop the floor with this dude. So like, how are they going to deal with this? So that question is the thing that kind of kept me invested to see to see the rest of the movie through. But admittedly, I was starting to fall asleep while watching the movie. But I also was very tired. So
Yeah.
I should say that too.
I don't think that it was boring. I thought it was interesting, but I I agree with your statement about it falling apart like the further along you go, through the movie. I kind of agree with you, Playmat. I feel like Scott should have died. Maybe not died, but I don't think he should have made it home.
There should
That's
have been a
yeah.
sacrifice.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that would have been like a great way for him to pass the torch to Cassie, but since he made it back, I feel like the torch wasn't really passed quite yet, more of like a gradual transition, so maybe next film there might be some kind of transition. I know there's going to be like a Kang movie or series that comes up, and Loki season 2 is coming up later this year. So I'm sure we're going to get more Kang stuff later on. But I think one of my biggest issues there with that one last scene was it just didn't make sense to me why Kang was trying to jump through the portal if he had the core there. And if he had just waited for all of them to go through the portal,
I said that's exactly. I said that too when I watched.
he would have had the core all to himself and they would have never known that he was still alive. So, um,
And better, just let them all walk through the portal, and then you walk through right after them. And then what are they gonna do? Push you back in?
yeah.
Like, it's
But he
like
didn't
at
even
that
need
point.
to. He could have just, because he had his own way out. If he walked through the portal, he wouldn't have been able to bring everything with him.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Right, because
So,
he was trying to bring everything.
yeah. So if I was him, I would wait for them to leave, then take the core and do my original plan.
Right. So I want to like double check because there was something that happened in the film that I feel like I'm not remembering where they there was something up with the portal and they had like a last ditch because they kind of like lost connection or something and then they needed. Oh no, that was after they'd already been destroyed. Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know because I forgot. Yeah, it gets destroyed and they feel like they're trapped there, but then Cassie, because of magic, is able to get them could get them again, even though she shouldn't have been able to. So yeah, Disney trying to not make sacrifices, even though that sacrifice would have meant something. Because the whole thing is, I like it when Hope. I like it when Hope comes back through the portal to save Scott because it shows that they are a team, like they are in this together. So she was going back in there after her dude. So I like the fact that she shows up. I like the fact that the portal like gets destroyed, and I like the fact that they're trapped, but at least they're trapped there together.
Mm-hmm.
So like so much potential. Like it's like you can see it. It's like that's what makes it more frustrating because it's like on the edge of just being like amazing, but then they completely water down that sacrifice by
Yeah.
making it so easy for Cassie to just bring them back because she's just science magic.
Yeah. I'm like, remember when we had Endgame and Vision died and like Wanda went crazy? Why can't we have more stuff like that? Because that's more like devastating and like not everyone's gonna survive. I know they're like Marvel characters and stuff like that, but now we're in this like period of time where we're transitioning like people out and the torch is being passed to a new generation of heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, knock them out, kill them all.
You don't maybe not kill them all, but you just want people to die.
Anyone is up for grabs. I'm just saying, like, keep us on our toes. It doesn't always have to be a happy ending. And I know it's Ant-Man, so Ant-Man is kind of more on the side of comedy and like being lighthearted and stuff.
Well, I didn't feel like this movie was that funny, but maybe that was just me.
It definitely wasn't. Like, I watched the other ones before watching this one because I just wanted like
Mm-hmm.
a refresher, and like the first one was
Yeah.
definitely the best.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just very balanced. But now it's kind of like stretching, and it's just kind of going all over the place. So I don't know. But
Yeah.
there was also
Okay.
this other part in the movie that didn't make sense to me, and that was when Kang finally gets Janet captive and he makes his portal and he brings her into the portal, and then like the next time we see them he's having two of his guys like escort her into the throne room. And I'm like, so you brought her in, then you put her somewhere just so she could be escorted, because it was like literally like
Yeah. Oh,
seconds
that reminded
later.
me. So that reminded me my other big note. I completely forgot. I think the editing of this film is like
So
actually bad.
all over the place, like what, like you have, I think like they're like they threw in one scene in the middle of nowhere just so that they can ask Janet like why she's not telling her telling everyone what her secret is. And I'm just like, God, just tell them already. Like how many scenes and conversations do we need to have of you being unwilling to tell everyone what happened? And
Mm-hmm.
it was just like that, like it was so short. It was this like I don't know, 10-second scene of them being like, tell us your secret, and she's like, no, I can't tell you, and like that was it. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what is happening with this editing? You're right, it was very just like all over the place. But I think one of the reasons why is, like I said, we only have 5 people down there that we can cut to, like back
Yeah.
and forth to, so we can really only go back and forth between um, Cassie and Scott, and then the other guys, the other family. So
Yeah. No, that's very true. And yeah, it's so weird. This is like one of the movies that like I don't always notice the editing in these films, but this is one of those ones where I absolutely did notice that these like some of these cuts were just kind of were kind of jarring. Um, so it's just kind of weird. But um, yeah, like the other thing that to just bring up when it comes to this is talking about the after credit stingers. Well, one, so this Kang is actually killed, which I was surprised. I thought that I didn't expect this one because I thought this was going to be the one that was going to be the big bad, and it just ends up being some like a variant that they're able to kill. And then the post credit sequence shows you that there's a whole army of Kangs like that are coming, which is going to be the thing. So then that got me thinking. I was like, oh, so because I thought it was going to be like one Kang that was going to be the problem, but it now seems like Marvel was trying to say that it's going to be a bunch of Kangs that are actually going to be the problem. So, and I don't know how I feel about how I feel about that yet. And then the post credit sequence is the one where they have the what was it? Where they have um, a reference to Loki. So they have a Loki tie-in for the next season,
mm-hmm.
and so it'll be very interesting. We haven't talked too much about it, but with the things that have come up with Jonathan Majors recently, it's very interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do because Jonathan Majors is probably not going to be Kang in the future because of certain things that have
Mm-hmm.
happened, and which is probably going to be fine for Marvel because it was like Playmat brought up earlier. It's a little weird that for Loki variants, like they actually look different, like to the point where they're played by different actors, but all of Kang's variants are the same. But I get the feeling that if they are going to use Kang some more in the future, they're just going to make a different Kang variant played by a different actor and just go with the idea that he's like the most powerful variant or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like it is getting a little bit out of control, because we have we already know that we have the multiverse, and there's also, time travel that they did in the Endgame and Infinity Wars. And now we have variants that were introduced to us for Loki. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, it almost is like building an excuse to do whatever the heck you want, um, which I already felt like for the multiverse. And I know they're like all connected, but like this is kind of like what is what anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting that this is kind of the beginning of the next phase. I can't remember. Maybe you guys in the chat can remind me if this was the beginning of the next phase or the end of the last phase. I think this was the start of the latest phase of Marvel was Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. Um, but it's interesting that it starts with Ant-Man and it starts with a villain that they then like kind of beat. Uh, but I guess and we haven't really seen much of him outside of Loki in that sense. But at the same time, they touch on the multiverse, and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was touching on the multiverse. Spider Man was touching on the multiverse. Um, all right, it's the start. So yeah, thank you guys. So yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this movie as a start to the next phase of Marvel. I guess it makes sense because this is supposed to be their next big bad. But it did feel kind of odd to me to have this big bad defeated in this movie. But again, it seems like they're leaning towards more of a because it sounded like this was going to be the Kang that was the problem. The Kang that in Loki they were talking about being like the guy you don't want to mess with. That's why they exiled him because even they're afraid of him. But now it's turned into we're about to have an army of Kangs that are coming after the thing. So it just I don't know how I feel about it yet. I just know initially it just felt weird to me. So I don't think that I'm excited about it the same way I was excited when you see Thanos turn
Mm-hmm.
around and
Yeah.
like the end of the Avengers movie.
Well, I mean, I think I'm also kind of over it. Like the,
Is that too?
I mean, yeah, because they're just churning out all these, things that are like actively bad, and like it's pretty hit or miss, but most of them are misses for me. So, and the thing about this Kang though, is it sounds to me like he got exiled because he was the one Kang that was trying to
Mm-hmm.
stop all the other Kangs from being a villain. So
Mm-hmm.
technically, they killed a good Kang, which makes me wonder. Like, I feel like almost that this whole movie and everything that they did in this movie was for nothing because if anything they made things worse for themselves by not allying themselves with the one Kang that isn't bad because
Oh
they
my
were because they were just
god!
going off of what Janet was saying, which is like she saw what he did, but she didn't see the part where he was basically trying to stop the other Kangs from doing what she thought this Kang was doing.
That's funny. That's very true. I mean, they say it even at the end of the movie. Ant Man's kind of like, "Wait, did I just doom the world? I'm sure it'll be fine."
Yeah.
Um, so yes, that makes it so that this movie, I mean, this movie matters because basically what so Falcon got beat by Ant Man. Sam ain't ready to be capped. You know what? Maybe Ant Man is the most powerful superhero in the cinematic universe right now. Ant Man beat Falcon and he beat Kang.
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, no, that's a good point because this Kang that's in this movie was supposed to be the one that was going to fight all the other evil Kangs, and the reason they put him here is because they were afraid of him. So by Ant Man and them killing him, they therefore destroyed their best chance at being able to fight against these other Kangs, meaning that they what they did. Well, it's not that it doesn't matter. It just matters in the wrong way.
Yeah. Like they made it worse. But yeah.
Yeah,
The
which I think
other
is pretty
thing,
interesting.
sorry, I have one more complaint about this movie.
Okay.
So it was established in the first Ant Man, when Scott went subatomic, he used the pin thing that grows, that makes you grow, and that's how he
Mm-hmm.
got out of the quantum realm.
Mm-hmm.
So if they all had a bunch of them, why didn't they just use that to grow big? Because they all had suits?
I feel like because they said that they didn't get tiny enough. I think that's what Janet says at some point, because I think Hank asked. He says, "I've been in the quantum realm a bunch of times. I've never seen anything like this." I think that her answer to him was that you didn't get small enough. I think that was the offhand answer that she gave. So because I guess they went too small, they couldn't use their normal method to come back.
Hmm. I thought
Yes,
he did
and that's
have a
true.
suit.
No, Hank didn't have a suit. He's the one
Yeah.
person that didn't have a suit.
But the
Hank
pin
just
makes everything grow, so yeah. Anyways, I was
maybe they didn't want to leave Hank. We'll just put it at that. They can left whenever they want, even
no, but
when
Cassie can open a portal.
Yeah, exactly. Even Cassie didn't even need to open the portal because they could have just got big and they would have got out without
Only
a
one
problem.
person needed to go back, so they could have
That-
put all the growing pins on one person, Cassie, and then she can open a portal and they can all come back. Movie's done. Movie's done, guys. And they don't kill the wrong king.
They don't kill the wrong king. Yes, the quantum realm logic. We're trying to break down, and it's basically just magic. It's like that point when magic just straight up, when science just straight up becomes magic because it doesn't actually make sense.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, but. Anyway, we should get out of here because we talked about this enough. Is there anything else that you had? I think that you said that was the last thing. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you had that you want to say?
That was it for me.
Okay, so maybe we'll talk a little bit more on Twitch channel, which if you guys want to see us over there, we'd be great to see you. It's twitch.tv/C3Films. You can see us talk about this and more. It's the stuff that doesn't get put on a YouTube segment. But what did you guys think about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? Did you like it more than we liked it? Did you think it was a great start to the next phase of Marvel movies? Did you like Jonathan Majors as Kang? What are your thoughts on what they're going to do with Kang now going forward? Whatever you thought about this and more, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and I am not a dick.